Anna Miller, a 35-year-old single mother and dedicated nurse, orchestrates her life around her beloved 8-year-old daughter, Violet. Originally from New Orleans, Anna's life took an unexpected turn during her second year of medical school when she found out she was pregnant. This revelation drastically altered the trajectory of her future, compelling her to put aside her dreams to ensure a stable life for her daughter. The challenges only intensified when her marriage disintegrated abruptly, leaving Anna to face the world alone when Violet was merely a toddler. Her high school sweetheart, Brian, vanished without any explanation or financial support, burdening Anna with the sole responsibility of raising Violet amidst escalating bills and growing responsibilities. Despite the hardships, Anna chose to navigate her circumstances without external aid, such as social services or family support. When Violet turned 2 and gained a bit more independence, Anna made a pivotal decision to return to her studies. Opting against the long and demanding path back to medical school, she pursued a nursing degree instead, which promised a quicker route to employment and a more manageable balance with her responsibilities as a single mother. Several years later, Anna has been a nurse for over 5 years, providing a stable and nurturing environment for Violet, who is now a vibrant 8-year-old. It was a typical late Thursday evening when Anna returned home, drained from a demanding day at the hospital, overcome with fatigue. A common endnote to her days filled with sacrificial duties. She barely managed to muster the energy to give Violet a loving goodnight kiss before collapsing on the sofa. As she settled into her comforting refuge, she momentarily closed her eyes to escape the day's stress. But her brief moment of tranquility was interrupted by Violet's enthusiastic cries of "Mommy! Mommy, you're here!" followed by her joyful leap onto Anna. Despite her exhaustion, Anna spun around and enveloped her daughter in a warm embrace, their hug magically dispelling the weight of the day, filling them with renewed love and energy. Just then, Louisa, their nanny and a cherished friend, entered the room with a warm smile, relieved by Anna's presence. "I'm so glad you're here, Anna. I was about to call it a night." She was already in bed, but she bolted out when she heard you. "I couldn't stop her," Louisa said, her voice filled with affection and understanding for the special bond between mother and daughter. "Needs a little space right now," Miller whispered, her voice strained with concern. She watched her daughter's worried expression from a safe distance, her heart aching with the need to comfort her yet knowing she must prioritize her health. Earlier that evening, as they walked towards Violet's bedroom, Miller had recounted her day at the hospital in rich detail, weaving tales of the patients she cared for and the medical challenges she faced. These stories, though complex for an 8-year-old, had always fascinated Violet. Raised on such narratives, Violet found them as magical as the fairy tales she read in books. As her mother tucked her in, Violet shared her own excitement about learning the intricacies of the human body at school, expressing her dream to follow in her mother's footsteps. "That's wonderful, honey, but remember, I'm a nurse, not a doctor." "Nonetheless, both nurses and doctors are crucial in helping people heal," Miller had corrected gently, pride swelling in her chest as she kissed Violet's forehead. However, the light-hearted moment soon shifted, as Miller felt a sudden wave of illness wash over her. Intense nausea, a throbbing ache in her chest and throat, and a fever that seemed to spike suddenly. She realized this was no ordinary fatigue from her demanding job. Trying to shield Violet from worry, she masked her growing discomfort, but when a violent cough and dizzy spell nearly brought her to the ground, her ability to hide the severity of her symptoms faltered. Violet, sensing something was terribly wrong, looked on with deep concern. Miller, grappling with the onset of her symptoms and the fear of a serious, unforeseen illness, instinctively stepped back to maintain distance, not wanting to expose Violet to any potential contagion. "Stay back. Sweetheart, Mommy needs a little space right now," she managed to say. Despite feeling overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events, the room spun around her as she fought to stay conscious, the weight of the situation pressing down hard. What unfolded was a critical moment that would indeed leave an indelible mark on their lives, a stark reminder of the fragility of health and the unpredictable twists of fate. "I think I caught the flu at the hospital," she said weakly, punctuating her sentence with a cough. The look of worry was clear on the little girl's face as she asked, "What's wrong, Mom? Can I do anything to help?" Her mother, struggling to keep her balance, replied, "I'm just feeling a bit dizzy, darling, and my throat hurts. I'm not sure what it is, but I'll run some tests later to find out." "Okay, but you need to rest. If you don't, you might get worse, and then you wouldn't be able to go to school. Do you understand?" She was aware of how much her daughter loved school and would hate to miss it due to illness. Reluctantly, Violet agreed to stay in bed, deeply concerned about her mother's health, and followed her instructions to wait in bed until her return. However, the next morning around 8 a.m., when Violet went down to the kitchen to join her mother for breakfast as per their daily routine, she was greeted by an empty room. Panicked and filled with dread, Violet rushed to the bedroom only to find her mother in a dire condition. Her mother was in bed, looking extremely ill with a high fever and shivering uncontrollably. Trying to remain calm, her mother instructed her to fetch the thermometer from the bedside table to check her temperature. Unfortunately, the reading was alarming. Her fever had spiked to 107 degrees. It was evident that Anna needed urgent medical attention as her life was in serious jeopardy. "Honey, grab the phone and call Louise quickly. She will know what to do," she urged her daughter. After Violet made the call, it took Louise just 15 minutes to reach their home, finding her friend on the brink of death. Louise was shocked by Anna's condition and tried to care for her by following the nurse's instructions over the phone. Yet, as night fell, Anna's health deteriorated further. She still had a high fever, suffered from continuous coughing, and began to experience hallucinations. Overwhelmed by the pain and fever, Louise was terrified and realized the urgency of the situation. She called for an ambulance to rush her friend to the hospital for specialized treatment and to diagnose her sudden illness. "Please hurry, my friend is dying," she frantically informed the paramedics as she noticed her friend's condition worsening and the onset of bloody coughs. Upon her friend's hospitalization, the medical team immediately sprang into action, working diligently to stabilize Anna and diagnose her condition. It was determined that Anna Miller was suffering from a severe case of pneumonia. Despite the relentless efforts of the medical team to reverse the dire progression of her illness, her condition deteriorated with each passing hour. Violet, her daughter, stood by helplessly, her heart breaking as she watched her mother, who was surrounded by an array of life support equipment. The impending loss was something Violet was wholly unprepared for, and it left her feeling as if her world was disintegrating around her. Anna, a dedicated nurse and a single mother, had spent her life ensuring that Violet had the best upbringing possible. Tragically, after battling a mysterious illness for several weeks in the intensive care unit, Anna succumbed to the disease. She passed away at the young age of 34. Leaving behind her 8-year-old daughter, Violet, who was now motherless and utterly devastated. The news of Anna's premature death resonated deeply throughout the hospital, casting a pall over her colleagues, nurses and doctors who held her in high esteem and cherished her deeply. They gathered together, shedding tears and sharing their profound sorrow over the loss of such a vibrant and healthy individual. The grief also reached Anna's extended family, who hurried to the hospital as soon as they received the heartbreaking news. Her parents, other relatives, and even her estranged ex-husband, Violet's father, all came to offer their condolences and support Violet during this overwhelming time. "I'm so sorry, honey. Your mom was an incredible woman. She loved you more than anything, and I'm certain that wherever she is now, she's still watching over you," they consoled Violet. However, Violet harbored her own feelings about her mother's passing. While she understood the concept of heaven, she struggled to accept the permanence of her mother's absence, constantly hoping for a sign that she might return. Louisa, a close family friend, took on the task of arranging the funeral with the help of Anna's family. The following day, everyone gathered for a modest yet poignant ceremony that was filled with symbolism and deep affection. Amid the profound sadness and nostalgia, there stood Violet, the heartbroken young girl, weeping beside her mother's coffin. In the mortuary, overwhelmed by grief and disbelief at her mother's demise, Violet repeatedly murmured through her tears, "She's not dead, she's not dead." As Louisa comforted the girl and guided her away from the prying eyes of the crowd, she embraced her gently, attempting to offer words of solace. "My dear, I know this is unbearable, but we have to come to terms with your mom's departure," Louisa whispered tenderly. However, Violet was not ready to concede. She wept vigorously, shaking her head. Unable to accept the grim reality of her mother's death, Violet struggled to grasp the stark reality that was unfolding before her. "Mom can't be gone. She wouldn't leave me. She promised," she sobbed inconsolably, tears streaming down her cheeks. After a while, the nanny, with a gentle touch and soothing words, managed to calm her slightly. She then guided Violet back to the main room of the somber funeral home where her mother lay, to bid her one final farewell. The coffin was about to be transported for burial in the family's ancestral niche. As she stood before her mother's coffin, Violet was engulfed by a wave of memories and cherished moments spent together. She couldn't bear the thought of her mother leaving her side forever. As the coffin lid was closed, sealing her final view of her mother's serene, peaceful expression, Violet realized with heart-wrenching clarity that she would never see her mother again. Overcome with grief, she cried out, "Mom, please don't leave me," her voice heavy with sorrow and despair. Then, in an astonishing turn of events that left everyone present speechless, the coffin began to tremble. At first, the movement was almost imperceptible, but it soon became more pronounced, stunning and bewildering all the onlookers. The coffin lid, which had been securely fastened, started to move slowly, as if someone inside was trying to push it open. The family and friends gathered there, watched in amazement, a mix of fear and incredulity painted on their faces. How could this be happening? Louisa instinctively stepped back, while others positioned near the coffin to transport it for burial also paused, their minds racing for explanations. Yet, deep down, they all harbored the same thought. The only one who could be lifting the lid from the inside was the supposedly deceased Anna. With tears still in her eyes, Violet slowly approached the coffin, a mix of curiosity and hope etched on her face. She placed both hands on the coffin and leaned down, bringing her ear close to the cold wood. It was then that she heard a faint sound from within. In an almost imperceptible whisper, the voice of the one she cherished most in the world pleaded, "Get me out of here. I'm alive, please. Get me out." Violet, recognizing her mother's voice, gasped in shock and joy. "My mother is alive. She's speaking to me," she exclaimed loudly, her eyes wide with amazement. Without a moment's delay, the nanny flung open the coffin's lid to verify, and indeed there lay Anna, her eyes wide with confusion and fright, her body trembling and her breath shallow. Yet, it was clear she was very much alive. Panic ensued among the onlookers, but swift actions followed as Anna was immediately transported to the hospital. In a bustling city hospital, an urgent assembly of medical staff worked diligently to stabilize a patient named Anna and unravel the mystery of her apparent resurrection. The scenario unfolded when Anna, previously declared dead, astonishingly showed signs of life again. This unusual case quickly caught the attention of the city, leading to a flock of journalists descending on the hospital, all keen to get the latest updates on this bewildering event. Despite the efforts of Louisa, a close and protective friend of Anna and her daughter, to shield them from the invasive media and public curiosity, the extraordinary nature of the incident made secrecy impossible. Over time, the complete truth came to light. It was revealed that Anna had been suffering from a rare condition known as Lazarus syndrome, which she contracted while caring for a patient. This syndrome can cause individuals to exhibit no signs of life, only to later reverse these symptoms in a remarkable manner. Adding to the intrigue of Lazarus syndrome is its potential for reversibility, a phenomenon that remains not fully understood or thoroughly studied by the scientific community. Amid this medical anomaly, it was Violet, Anna's daughter, whose persistent refusal to part with her mother and her efforts to awaken her, that miraculously helped Anna emerge from her profound unconscious state after her harrowing brush with death. Following this ordeal, Anna returned home not just safe but with an extraordinary story that resembled a fairy tale. In recognition of her long-standing dedication, the hospital awarded her a significant salary increase, considering her years of service without financial adjustment. Additionally, Anna received a generous severance package to compensate for the years of stagnant wages and the physical and mental toll the incident had taken on her. This financial windfall allowed her to settle her accumulated bills, and after enduring financial hardships for an extended period, Anna finally experienced some financial stability, bringing significant peace and relief from long-standing stress. Over time, both Anna and her young daughter's circumstances began to improve, restoring a sense of normalcy and balance to their lives. Hope began to dispel the shadows of the difficult years they had endured. This remarkable tale of a simple nurse demonstrated to everyone that even in the darkest and most perplexing moments, extraordinary events can occur if you're open to believing in them. Did this heartfelt and astonishing story resonate with you? If so, we encourage you to leave a comment with your thoughts. Next, let's continue to see another similar story. Scientists installed the coffin of Cameron Vincent for investigative purposes. Upon reviewing the footage, they were utterly astonished. Vincent hailed from an affluent background, his father being a prominent real estate expert and collector of valuable ancient artifacts often sought after in the black market. His mother was ranked among the nation's leading surgeons. Despite his privileged upbringing, Vincent remained down-to-earth and committed to contributing positively to society, striving to make the world a better, safer, and happier place. Vincent experienced a profound personal loss when his mother died of cancer on his 18th birthday, an event that left him and his father to forge a new path forward together. His life took another turn when, several years later, his father remarried a kind-hearted woman who had a daughter, Rita, from a previous union. Embracing the changes within his family, Vincent decided to follow in his father's entrepreneurial footsteps, entering the realms of real estate and artifact collection. He swiftly established himself as a savvy businessman, a trait he believed he had inherited from his father. Tragedy struck again when Vincent's father passed away after battling a brief illness. This loss plunged Vincent into a state of isolation and deep sadness, as he struggled to find direction. In this challenging time, his stepmother and stepsister became his pillars of support, initially skeptical of their intentions. Vincent was moved by their unwavering dedication and the sacrifices they made for his well-being, which eventually led him to wholeheartedly embrace them as true family. After 6 months of mourning, Vincent felt compelled to return to the family home he had inherited but had left unoccupied. The guilt of neglecting the home weighed heavily on him, prompting his return. The community received him with open arms and soon, he was leading efforts to enhance local infrastructure, renovating schools, improving roads, and even spearheading the construction of a small hospital. His philanthropy extended to making generous donations to the underprivileged and funding scholarships for local children, actions that earned him the deep respect and gratitude of the community. The peaceful flow of life was shattered one morning by the shocking news of Vincent's sudden death. Rita, who had been visiting him, found his lifeless body and, driven by a slim hope, rushed him to the hospital. Despite the medical team's exhaustive efforts, they were unable to determine the cause of his death and suggested an autopsy. However, remembering Vincent's mild heart condition and his strong aversion to autopsies, which he felt invaded personal dignity, Rita provided his medical records to the doctors. Convinced that his known cardiac issue was the cause, she decided against the autopsy, choosing to respect her brother's beliefs as she planned his funeral. Rita spent a restless night searching for ways to honor Vincent's memory with dignity. It was during this search that she stumbled upon an article about researchers who were pioneering new methods to celebrate the lives of departed loved ones. Inspired by what she read, Rita began to envision a tribute that would reflect Vincent's life and values, ensuring his legacy would be remembered fondly by all who knew him. For an entire year, a dedicated team of researchers embarked on a meticulous analysis of post-mortem studies before drawing any concrete conclusions. Rita believed that contributing to this research would be an appropriate homage to her late brother Vincent, who had always been committed to making a positive impact on the world. Feeling compelled to act, she contacted the research team that very night, volunteering her brother's body for their scientific endeavors. Touched by her gesture, the scientists promptly sent her all the necessary paperwork and offered her a substantial fee as a token of their appreciation. In a heartfelt decision, Rita chose to donate this amount to a local orphanage, continuing her brother's legacy of kindness. The following day, Rita organized a funeral for her brother. The church was filled to capacity, a testament to Vincent's wide-reaching influence and the love he had inspired in the community. In a unique twist, before sealing the coffin, the researchers affixed a camera to its side. This camera was set up to transmit video back to their laboratory for up to a year, powered by long-lasting batteries. It was programmed to begin recording every evening at 7 p.m. the emotional funeral service lasted roughly an hour and moved many attendees to tears. After the service, Rita took up residence in her brother's home. Meanwhile, the scientists anxiously awaited the initial footage from the camera as the clock struck 7 p.m. They gathered around the monitor in anticipation. The footage that began streaming was shocking to the extent that they immediately saved the video and hurried to the police station, having witnessed something horrifying. The day after, while Rita was sipping expensive tequila on her porch, the tranquility was shattered by the sound of approaching sirens. Before she could fully process the situation, a police van pulled into her front yard. With a strained effort, she stood and approached the officers, offering a nervous smile that failed to mask her anxiety. "Good evening, I am Rita Reader. How may I assist you today?" she asked, her voice trembling as she instinctively hid her hands behind her back. One of the officers replied, "We're here to speak with Ms. Reader." Rita's behavior grew increasingly defensive as she interjected, "What brings you here? Do you have a search warrant?" She then strategically positioned herself in the doorway, arms spread wide to block their entry. Despite the officers not having made any move to enter, the conversation took a dramatic turn when the officers informed Rita that she was needed at the station for questioning regarding her possible involvement in her brother's mysterious death. Hearing this, Rita experienced a wave of fear wash over her, her complexion turning pale as the gravity of the situation began to sink in. As she held the glass, it slipped from her grasp and shattered into countless fragments on the floor, symbolizing that there was no turning back from the reality she faced. Realization dawned on her that any attempt at deceit was futile, prompting her to opt for confession. Hoping that her honesty might set her free, she openly acknowledged that her actions towards her brother were never intended to harm him. Her true motive was to gain possession of the valuable artifacts he had. In her confession, she detailed how she had secretly added extra sleeping tablets to his coffee to sedate him, then searched the house to locate the artifacts. When her initial search turned up empty, she returned to his room to pressure him into revealing their whereabouts, only to find him unresponsive and not breathing. Confronted with the grim prospect of facing murder charges, she crafted a story about her brother Vincent having an undisclosed heart condition, supporting her claim with forged medical documents. To further obscure the truth, she opposed an autopsy and instead arranged for Vincent's body to be donated to science under the guise of research, pleading that his death was an unintended accident. Just when she thought her situation couldn't deteriorate further, a scene as though lifted from a cinematic thriller unfolded. The passenger door of the police car swung open, and to her disbelief, Vincent stepped out, very much alive. Approaching his trembling sister, overcome with shock, Rita stood paralyzed, desperately wishing it was all a horrific nightmare she would wake from. However, this was the harsh reality. The scientists had been astounded when they reviewed camera footage and saw Vincent frantically trying to escape his coffin. It appeared that the effects of the sleeping pills had worn off, awakening him in a terrifying predicament, buried alive. In a frantic rescue operation orchestrated by the scientists and police, Vincent was unearthed and rushed to the hospital where he was stabilized. It was revealed that Vincent had grown suspicious of his stepsister's intentions for a while, prompting him to securely store the artifacts in a warehouse. Despite Rita's pleas for him to drop his suspicions, Vincent was adamant about seeking justice. Ultimately, Rita faced trial and was sentenced to imprisonment. What are your thoughts on Vincent pursuing legal action against his stepsister? Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.